Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1384B, and today's date is September 22nd, 2017, and the title of the episode is GCHQ warns of a Category 1 cyber attack coming soon. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Well, it looks like the cabal is not giving up with this Russian collusion, that Russia cyber attacked the elections, that they were involved, Trump was involved, and they're just continuing with this. They're not letting up whatsoever. And now it looks like the Facebook founder, the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, he was out there and he released to Congress all these different ads that were running during the U.S. 2016 presidential election. And they're saying there's about 3,000 ads that were purchased between June 2015 and May 2017, connected to 470 inauthentic accounts and pages in violation of their policies. And he said that, our analysis suggests that these accounts and pages were affiliated with one another and likely operated out of Russia. The problem is they have no proof. They don't know if it was Russia. They have no idea where all these ads came from. And right now, they're just trying to push out there anything they can put their hands on to convince everyone that Russia is still the enemy. Now, put it this way. If they were running ads on Facebook, do you really think that this really turned the election? All these ads? I mean, first they said Russia cyber attacked and they changed the election results. Now they have no proof of that whatsoever, so they can't use it anymore. Then they said, Trump was involved with Russia, with Russian collusion, and they couldn't prove that either because there was nothing there. They have this special counsel in the FBI still researching, looking into everything. They can't find anything there. I know they're coming out with all this different information, but there's really nothing there so far. They can't find anything. And they're saying that all these ads are there. This reminds me of like cyber attacks, where they'll just come out and say, well, North Korea attacked Sony Pictures. They had no proof, and it turned out to be an inside job. Russia hacked this. Well, they had no proof. They just say it, and they expect everyone just to believe it. And the whole thing is completely fake, phony, and false. I mean, Russia's out there saying, this is ridiculous. And this is not going to change people's minds. The reason why people voted in a certain way is because they were unhappy with the way the country was headed. That's why they decided, something, we weren't going to go in this direction. And the cabal, well, they were trying to manipulate the election because you can see that Hillary did win the popular vote, but the Electoral College, well, that's where Trump won. And they thought if they got the popular vote, the Electoral College would just follow through like they've done in the past. And it didn't happen this time. And there was no cyber attack. There was no Russian collusion. None of this is true. They're just trying to do whatever they possibly can to convince everyone that, yeah, this is still happening. Russia's the enemy. And this is why Morgan Freeman is out there with the advertisement. They are doing their last-ditch effort to convince everyone because this is all they have. We see that the White House, they place more sanctions on North Korea, and these include sanctions on any foreign financial institution that knowingly conducts or facilitates any significant transaction on behalf of certain individuals and entities. And we can see that they're trying to shut this whole thing down. They're trying to force North Korea into doing something. And once again, this is not going to work. I mean, they also targeted vessels that have engaged in a ship-to-ship transfer with a vessel that has visited North Korea within 180 days. So they're trying to say, listen, all these other countries stay away or you're going to be sanctioned. It's like the United States is the bully on the block, which we know this is what has been happening for many, many years. And they are just pushing around these smaller countries and trying to forcing them into doing things that they really don't want to do. And North Korea right now is really not going to back down. We see that South Korea is doing the actual opposite of what the United States wants. Now, the United States wants sanctions, and South Korea, well, they are going to give, and they made this surprise decision, that they're going to send $8 million of aid to North Korea. The South said it planned to send about $4.5 million worth of medical treatments, nursery facilities, nutritional products for children and pregnant women through the World Food Program. And again, this is going against the sanctions, and the United States, once again, is not really happy about this. Remember, behind the scenes right now, there are talks going on. China is involved, Russia is involved, yes, the United States is involved, and they're trying to calm the situation down. The cabal, on the other hand, the neocons, on the other hand, they want something to happen. They want some type of war. And I know we've had these couple of tests where they fired these missiles and they intercepted the missiles, and we talked about this before, where they knew what the missile type was, they knew the trajectory, they knew exactly what was going to happen when it was going to be launched. And according to this individual, Joe Cirincione of Defense One, he's saying that we really aren't capable of shooting down a North Korean missile. When the Japanese chief cabinet secretary said we didn't intercept it because no damage to Japanese territory was expected, this was only partially true. It wasn't a threat, but they didn't have the capability to shoot it down due to the altitude. Neither Japan nor the United States could have intercepted the missile. None of the theater ballistic missile defense weapons in existence can reach that high. It is hundreds of kilometers too high for the Aegis interceptors deployed on Navy ships off Japan, even higher for the THAAD systems in South Korea and Guam, way too high for the Patriot systems in Japan, which engage largely within the atmosphere. All of these are basically designed to hit a missile in the post-mid-course or terminal phase, when it is on its way down, coming more or less straight at the defending system. And if we have the ability to shoot down North Korean missiles, why haven't we done so as of yet? And the reason for this is we can't. And if we tried to do it and we missed, guess what? Kim Jong-un would use this to his advantage. This is why the United States hasn't done this. Even though they're out there showing you they can shoot down a missile, but they know all the information about the missile, they know exactly how to shoot it down, something from North Korea is going to be a little bit more difficult. We see Iran right now, they are making deals all over the place. They made a deal with Denmark, the Danske Bank. They signed a 500 million finance contract. And we can see that Denmark's Danske Bank is the second European lender to ink such an agreement with Iran right now. So sanctions and all these things, it's not helping. China, Russia, Iran, the rest of the countries, they're all making deals, and they're doing it outside of the dollar, and we can see that they don't care anymore. And they're doing this and pushing their economic systems forward, even though the dollar is dying, even though the United States doesn't want this to happen, even though the United States is trying to bully all these countries. It's not working anymore. We see the Syrian Kurds, they held a local vote. They had elections right now. The Syrian government is saying this is ridiculous, but we can see that the cabal, they are pushing their agenda. They want to show that, yes, they're having this referendum. Yes, they're looking to vote themselves away from Syria, and they're trying to push this idea, but the rest of the country is really not going along with this. Now, in Iraq, we understand that the Iraqi government is saying, listen, there's not going to be an independent Kurd area. And there's supposed to be some type of referendum, which is supposed to be held on September 25th, just like in Catalonia. And we can see that there's not as many Kurds that are there that are looking to become independent. The corporate media is making it seem like this is what's happening, but this is being pushed by the cabal. They want the Kurds to have a separate piece of land, and they're trying to connect this with Iraq and Syria. And if they don't get their way, it looks like we might see some infighting. And this is exactly what they want. They want another war to break out against the Kurds and the government of these countries. So we might see the Kurds rise up and start fighting against the Syrian government and the Iraqi government. and it looks like they might just create chaos in the area. We're getting information that in September, on September 11th, on September 19th, they shipped in weapons. There were about 200 trucks loaded with ammunition, weapons from the U.S. going to the Syrian Democratic Forces to help them out. And this was all going to the Kurd region. So if we start putting all this together, the Syrian Democratic Forces are in that region, the Kurds are there, and we have about 200 trucks going into this area with thousands upon thousands of weapons and equipment. It looks like they might be getting ready to set this whole thing up for some type of offensive. And it looks like this is what's happening, because when we look at what's happening with Russia and Syria right now, they have cleared about 87% of the Syrian territory. And every day they're pushing back the paid mercenaries. They're losing ground. And before you know it, this whole thing is going to come to a screeching halt. And Syria and Russia, they're going to say the United States needs to leave. The coalition forces need to leave. And this is why the cabal is trying to maneuver right now to start something, because they know they only have a certain period of time before they are asked to leave. We see the GCHQ, they are warning of a massive cyber attack, and they're saying that this is coming from their National Cybersecurity Center, and they warn that the UK should be prepared for a major Category 1 cyber attack. Now, the WannaCry ransom attack, they're putting this as a Category 2. Category 1 is the top, and they're saying if this does happen, or I should say when this does happen, they're saying this is a national emergency. They're going to need a national response to this. Now, we've talked about this before, and it looks like they're preparing and they're building up the propaganda that when this economic system starts to come down, they're going to have multiple cyber attacks hitting different countries. And of course, what are they going to hit? They're going to hit the financial institutions. They're going to bring down the banking system. They're going to make it seem like the economy fell apart because of that. And we know this is not why the economy is falling apart. The economy is falling apart because the Fed ran it into the ground. And this was done on purpose because they profited from all of it, and they want to restart it. They know it's coming to an end, and they need to destroy it somehow, some way. And one great way to do this is with a cyber attack, because you really don't have to prove it. They can just say, hey, out on the corporate media, look, we were hit by Russia, we were hit by China, we were hit by North Korea, and guess what? They hit the financial institutions. They might have wiped out everyone's savings. We're going to have to shut down the banks, we're going to have to look into this, and we're going to have to see what really happened here. And this is going to be very easy for them to do, and this is why I've always said, this is my personal opinion, only keep what you need in the bank to pay your bills. You should have cash on hand. You should have gold and silver to basically ensure your wealth. You might want to invest in cryptocurrency, even if the internet does go down for a little while. If it actually does, I don't think it will. I think they're just going to close the financial institutions, maybe the stock market, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and you won't be able to access the banking systems. But I think they'll keep the internet up and running. We might see some cyber attacks to the power grid in certain areas, but it's not going to be the entire country. They just want it for propaganda purposes to scare people, because all you have to do is hit one town or a couple of cities and people will be scared out of their minds. And this will be very easy for them to do. So even if you had cryptocurrency, guess what? And you had it on an offline wallet, you still have that no matter what. And I don't think the whole internet's going to come down. That would be quite outrageous. I mean, they might do it, but I don't think they're going to go that far in doing it. So you need to be ready and prepared for whatever happens here. And it looks like they're building this propaganda up. They're out there telling you that a Category 1 is coming. It's almost like a hurricane where they're saying, oh, it's a different category. But of course, it's the opposite way. Category 1 is the worst compared to a hurricane, which is Category 5. And we're seeing that they're just building this up, trying to convince everyone that something bad is happening, because they need this event to prove to people that the central banks are good and these other countries are bad, and they want to destroy our financial system. And it looks like we are headed in that direction. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.